He went to his beloved without hiding. Jeanne, the Dauphine of France, knew full well that her husband was infatuated with the beautiful Bette de Cassel, but she endured it in silence. The royal family already had plenty of grievances against the wife of the heir to the throne, so it was unwise to provoke them further. To put an end to the rumors and win back her husband's affection, Jeanne needed to bear a son. But in this, she could not succeed. Jeanne de Bourbon had grown into a strikingly beautiful young woman. Nature had blessed her with golden hair, light green eyes, and a graceful figure. What stood out most were her tiny feet. Jeanne's feet were so delicate that her shoes always resembled those of a child. From the moment of her birth, she had been destined for Charles, the Dauphin of France. They were born just days apart, baptized together in Montreal. The betrothed were cousins, both descended from the same ancestor, Charles of Valois. The groom was the grandson of a duke, while the bride was his great-granddaughter. Had the arrangers of this marriage known how it would turn out, they would never have gone through with it. The wedding was originally planned for in the year 1349, but the plague swept through France, and the royal family was plunged into mourning as the Dauphin Charles lost both his mother and grandmother. The young man himself fell ill with another disease, leaving him unable to hold anything heavy in his right hand for the rest of his life. They were finally married a year later, when Jeanne and Charles were both 12 years old. Young, unprepared for union, and unable to compromise, they inevitably clashed and misunderstood each other. Soon, the Dauphin chose to explore the art of love under the guidance of a different mentor. He took lovers, and the most famous of them was Bette de Cassel. Bette was not considered a great beauty, and many at court believed Jeanne de Bourbon far outshone her. But Charles was utterly captivated. He made no secret of his mistress, rarely visited his wife, and this greatly displeased King John II. "Love is a beautiful thing," he told his son, "but France needs an heir." Jeanne had given birth to only 2 daughters, both of whom had died in infancy. This meant the Dauphin needed to spend more nights with his wife, and fewer with Bette. Jeanne's tact, her calm demeanor, and her steadfast refusal to make a scene over her husband's infidelities eventually won Charles over. His wife had grown into an intelligent and engaging companion, and how well she had learned to understand him. Jeanne de Bourbon always listened to Charles attentively, occasionally offering sound advice. When King John died, and Charles and his wife were crowned in Reims, the dynamic between them changed entirely. The love triangle dissolved, and Charles V no longer needed Bette or anyone else. Jeanne was enough for him. "She is the sun of my kingdom," the king once said poetically of his wife. It seemed as though with each passing year, Charles loved his spouse more deeply, and she delighted him with children. They went on to have 8 more together, but their days of prosperity were not destined to last. By the early 1370s, Queen Jeanne de Bourbon's behavior began to change. She became suspicious, jealous, and unlike her former self, often sinking into prolonged bouts of melancholy. The doctors summoned by her concerned husband could make no sense of it. Soon, Jeanne experienced her first true episode of madness. She lost her memory and her sanity for months on end. The queen was never the same again. In a cruel twist of fate, Jeanne descended into madness just as her husband, Charles, was being hailed as the wise. The famous Christine de Pizan, poet and chronicler, even used the term cunning to describe the King of France. He knew how to choose loyal friends and rid himself of enemies. Now, the love triangle had taken on a different form: the king, Jeanne, and power. Then, one day, while Jeanne de Bourbon was pregnant, her doctors strictly forbade her from taking a bath, deeming it too dangerous. But the queen was so determined to bathe that her maids could not refuse her. On February 6th, she went into labor, and the situation spiraled out of control. The queen gave birth to a daughter, whom she even managed to name, but she herself died. And who was blamed for this tragedy? The ill-fated bath, of course. "No one had ever seen the king so heartbroken," wrote Christine de Pizan. Charles V never remarried. Jeanne's madness did not fade without consequence. A few years later, Her son Charles VI also lost his mind. Perhaps the roots of his affliction lay with his mother. But in the 14th century, people preferred to believe that the king had been bewitched or deliberately driven to madness.